But here we come back to the same problem that everyone has to really think about. And I just wrote an article for U.S. Incorporated about it. The notion that Putin might well try to put saboteurs among the refugees who would go to those countries that are helping and then carry out acts of sabotage. It happened during the Second World War. We worry about terrorists doing the same sort of thing. When you have the movement of large numbers of people, and these are unprecedented numbers of people, the potential is there to insert bad actors within those folks, creating a real nightmare for the countries that Putin has nothing but hostility for. Remember how he was threatening us with nuclear weapons and possibilities that we had never seen before. Part of that might well be bringing people in or having already put people in place who could launch attacks from within the neighboring countries and even the United States.
And even the United States, exactly. So while we watch this unfold half a world away, Michael, obviously there are ramifications here. We know that borders matter. Countries need borders. And as you perfectly articulated, the U.S. is exposed, and a failure by the Biden administration not to secure our borders has really brought us to a place where we, a year ago, if you had said, you know, this could be happening, you probably wouldn't have believed it. And you wouldn't have believed, first of all, the amount of illegal immigrants that are coming in, specifically, you know, we see gang members. But to ratchet it up now, how probable is it that these saboteurs, these bad actors, could now infiltrate where we are? And also, we saw a lot of people come in from Afghanistan.
Yes, from Afghanistan who weren't properly vetted. And by the way, the head of Homeland Security, Alejandro Mayorkas, has said that even when people lie on their applications for visas and U.S. citizenship, this administration will take no action. You know, I've testified before somewhere around 17 hearings in the House and Senate. I gave testimony to the 9/11 Commission. The 9/11 Commission determined that people lying on applications for visas and other immigration benefits was the #1 method for terrorists to enter the United States and embed themselves as they go about deadly preparations. To have the head of Homeland Security, a guy who, by the way, under the Obama administration, was investigated by the Office of Inspector General for malfeasance and found that he ordered petitions for visas to be approved that never should have been approved, including from a company that had a potential link to a terrorist organization, keeps me awake at night. How in the world can you protect the country when you don't have secure borders, and we're a country of 50 border states, and there's no integrity to the immigration system that provides lawful status and identity documents to foreign nationals who cannot prove who they are? That's what the word undocumented means, doesn't it?
Yes, I mean, doesn't protect, zero protections really. And I've been down, you know, recently to the border in Texas and just seeing the free-for-all that it really is with the cartels running people across the river. But you know, isn't there also a wider issue here of the lawmakers who have incentivized these people to come as well? Because when you look at a place like New York City where people can not be non-citizens, can vote. We know in California, Governor Newsom wants to give illegal immigrants free health care. American taxpayers, American citizens are paying for all of that. And now we have tonight the State of the Union, where I can imagine that you would agree President Biden will make no mention of our broken borders or the lack of, you know, enforcement, and the Border Patrol, who is really in a very difficult situation, not being able to do their jobs.
Well, something else to consider. We're giving driver's licenses to illegal aliens. That had stopped after 9/11. And motor vehicles are the weapon of choice by terrorists around the world. We're giving licenses to people. We're putting up barricades against car bombs and truck bombs, but we're doing nothing to stop bad actors from getting behind the wheels of those vehicles. Between sanctuary cities and this administration that's created a sanctuary country, if you will, we're in deep trouble. And if you go back to what Churchill warned when he gave that famous speech about the Iron Curtain descending on Europe, he said that Russia only respected military power and would reject anything that looked like weakness. You had Medvedev talking about how we were routed out of Afghanistan, leaving in a cowardly fashion, according to Medvedev. So what exactly is it that this administration is doing to live up to its responsibility of protecting America and Americans? And when you look at the Constitution, Article 4, Section 4 says that the states are to be provided with a Republican form of government and protected against invasion and domestic violence. Domestic violence, if you look at DEA statistics, we've never had more homicides or overdoses of narcotics, much of those drugs pouring across those borders All I want to know is a simple question. In all of this, where is the good news for Americans? There isn't much to be found.
Well, one shred of hope here, the midterm elections, and they are coming. Michael Cutler, we appreciate your time and your insight today. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me and covering the story.
Of course.